Welcome, viewers, to another episode of my story. So, we're on episode 10, and let us talk about when I was born. So, I was born really tiny, and that is why they named me Tiny. So, I also cried a lot when I was small because of the colic, I assume. So basically, tiny, undernourished runt of the litter is what I was. In spite of being super skinny, I had the roundest cheeks ever. So it seems when I was born in Punjab, it was night, and my mom kept asking her family, like, what's the gender of the baby? Because obviously that was her prime concern. The male obsessed Punjabi family. So what they did was they wouldn't tell her the gender, and she kept asking again and again. And at some point, they placed me away from her, and she was alone at one point. So apparently she was so desperate to know my gender that she got up from the bed and came and checked my gender. And then when she saw that she had a female child, she, I think, started crying. And then when my dad realized that, he decided to console her by, trying to tell her something positive. And he said, look, she has dimples, your daughter has dimples, she has these soft brown golden curls. Look at her, she's fair-skinned. So this is basically the older child was a little darker. My mom is a little lighter skinned, my dad is a little darker skinned. And of course, none of us got the dazzling eyes of my dad's family. My dad and all his brothers, they have these amazing colored eyes. Like my dad has steel grey eyes. He has one brother with like almost blue eyes, another with kind of green eyes. And many of my cousins do have those golden eyes and green eyes, but we don't have that. None of us have that. So basically, dad was trying to console my mom and make her feel better about my gender, by telling her, look, she has this, she has that. And of course, little did they know that tiny little me would be like an anemic, weak and cognitively dull child, adding to their disappointment. Anyway, so what mom also noticed was my nose. So that's one thing about me. I feel like that has also been my earliest memory of when I noticed what I looked like. Was I felt like everything's great, but what's with this potato on my face? So I do have like a really bad fat nose, kind of not even straight. So it does look like a misshapen potato, if you would. And so my mom thought of how when her older sister, like my uncle Raj, when his kids were born, like they have really bad noses, I guess because my dad's side of the family don't have good noses, but still I feel like guys get away with ugly noses and girls don't. So what happened was that Raj's wife, that is dad's brother's wife, was mom's sister. So it seems that when Raj's daughters were born, my mom had specifically noticed their bad noses. Now I think this is a flaw we have in our family culture. We are so very honest. We do blurt out without thinking how it might affect the other person. We are just so brutally honest always. So apparently when my mom, this is the story she tells me, that when she saw Raj's daughter, the first one, the second one, she specifically noticed their really bad ugly noses, and she commented about that to her sister. So apparently her sister, that is Raj's wife, was kind of angry, but she tended to be passive aggressive. That was her temperament. So she didn't really say anything, but she kind of in her mind, this is the story, that Guddu's sister, my mom's sister, in her mind wished that my mom would also have a child with a really bad nose. So apparently when I was born, this is something my Masi did when she saw me for the first time. She was very delighted and almost clapped in joy, saying, "Yes, your daughter has a bad nose. Yes, your daughter has a bad nose." And my poor mom was so confused. And that's when her sister told her, when you seen my daughter's noses, you commented on how bad their noses were. And that's when I wished that your kid would also have an ugly nose. And look, now your kid has an ugly nose. And in my mind, I believe that is the reason I got the ugly nose. Otherwise, how could the rest of me be so perfect and the only horrible ugly thing on me be the nose? So, Masi, just see Masi, I think you caused me to have an ugly nose. I'm not sure, but I think so. So anyway, so my dad was trying to convince my mom about my good qualities. He was showing her my round cheeks and my dimples and that kind of stuff. But my mom never got over the fact that she did not have a boy. And she took every opportunity to remind us that her first child, that she was kind of manipulated or bullied into aborting, had been a boy. They had seen that it was a boy because she had aborted quite late. Like I just said, she had almost lost her life aborting that baby, right? She was pressured into doing that. So, and her family did not know, otherwise they might have intervened, they might have talked some sense into her. So when they saw the aborted child, they did know it was a boy, and that is something she never forgets, nor does she let us forget. So throughout our lives, we've been hearing, oh, my first one was going to be a boy, and if I'd had a boy, I would never have had another child. So basically she kept telling us that if only she'd had the boy, we would not have existed. So these are the kind of things she used to tell us, and other things like, oh, why do I have girls? Why are you girls? Why are you not boys? So throughout our lives, we've heard these things. If only you had a brother. And this doesn't come just from my mom. We used to have other people ask us, generally, you meet someone for the first time and they'll be like, oh, so how many siblings are you? Oh, 3 sisters. And then they would ask, and brother? And then I would brace myself because I knew how the conversation was going to go after that. And I would have to say no, and then that reaction, or that dreaded reaction where people would look so sorry with the sadness in their eyes, and they would be like, oh no, you poor thing, no brother. And I used to get so angry to hear that. I was so angry. And this whole male preference thing of Punjab, not just Punjab but India, it is so messed up. I really don't understand this. I mean, in a way I do understand the male preference. It is more stressful for the parents of a daughter for whatever reasons. There are so many reasons. But still, it's horrid to just keep coming across this blatant sexist attitude. And to the extent that in Punjab, the male obsession is so strong that I think in the 70s, 80s and 90s, I don't think people are doing it now. People would just take their newborn daughters and start dressing them and treating them like boys. So the poor little girl would grow up believing she was a boy for the first few years of her life. And I have witnessed this in my own extended family. My dad's brother's kid was, for the first few years of her life, she was dressed like a boy. She was told she was a boy. She thought she was a boy. And later, when these girls used to find out that they are not boys and they're actually girls, they used to be so confused and devastated. It's so weird. I don't even understand why anyone would do that to the kid. So anyway, that's about the whole boy obsession in my state, probably in my country also, which later made me hate the idea of a male child with a vengeance. And plus, I never ever had this desire to be a male. So first of all, there was the whole thing of my mom saying, oh, if only you were a boy. But I never ever wanted to be a boy. All I wanted was to be a girl, and I was very happy being a girl. I wore pretty frocks, I had pretty long hair. I did not even understand why anyone would want to be a boy. I loved being a girl, period. But this attitude did affect poor Ruby, my older sister. It messed with her at a subconscious level very badly. For the longest time, she carried the guilt about being female. So throughout her growing years, she would pretend she was a macho boy. She would dress like boys whenever possible and other messed up things. Poor thing. She was like that for a long time. Like, she would hang out with boys, she would try to be a boy with them and that kind of thing. So that was one aspect of it. So back to the story of my birth. So to add to the disappointment of having a female child, mom had a weak, colicky, cranky baby whose mind was not too sharp either. Being anemic and undernourished meant that I couldn't learn things by heart like other kids, like the tables and stuff. I couldn't retain what I'd heard or read. And of course, I did not have the physical strength and stamina of other kids. Later, I intuitively avoided foods that I was allergic to, such as makki ki roti. But then I would be forced to eat it because parents assume that the kid is a fussy eater and they should not be pampered like that. And then I would be forced to eat it, and then my tummy would hurt and I would still be undernourished. And like I'd mentioned in an earlier video, they did take me to doctors and asked, "Ye itni slow hai, weak hai, yaad nahi rehta." But then the doctors would just be like, "Oh, nothing is wrong with her, absolutely nothing," like I'd mentioned earlier. So I can't imagine my parents were very thrilled to have me in their lives. But there I was, and we had moved to the Wankas bungalow. That was a very beautiful bungalow, and it had this beautiful central courtyard, and on 3 sides of the courtyard was the house, and then there was a broad flight of stairs that went down. So this bungalow was at a higher level than its surroundings, and it looked very grand, and I loved playing in that courtyard. And I do have a lot of memories from that time, but I'm not sure if they are actual memories or if they are memories that have been created in retrospect, like if I've heard stories about my life over there and then kind of got false memories. We'll discuss more about life at the Wankas bungalow in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Please like my video and please subscribe to my channel. Do share my video with other women if you feel it might help them. And I'll soon upload another episode. Thanks for watching, dear viewers. Bye for now.